Hello and good morning. This is the Daily Mentor Message, and this message is for you and anybody that may be within your sphere of influence, because I think it's something that's timely and I think it's something that's a valid point. Most recently, and this is going to be coming from my perspective, as someone who is 59 years of age, I am attending more and more funerals than I ever have in my life. And I have a common experience at every single one, whether or not this is a dear friend or someone who was an acquaintance, somebody that I went to church with, somebody who was a neighbor, a friend, or whatever the case may be. Every single time that I am sitting in a funeral, listening to friends and family and loved ones of the person who has passed, I always have a sense of regret and remorse that I didn't know this person better, that I didn't interact with them on a more frequent basis. And I know that funerals are always the highlight reels of someone's life, but isn't that how it's supposed to be? Aren't we supposed to share the most memorable and the greatest moments of someone's life in their honor as we honor their life and we celebrate their life? Because everyone has a highlight reel, and unfortunately everyone has a blooper reel too. That's just not the time and place. But it seems like funerals talk about the highlight reels, whereas life in general talks about the blooper reels, because we're always comparing ourselves. And Mark, the book of Mark in the Bible has a quote I wanted to, a scripture. It's Mark 3:25, and it says, "And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand." And so a house divided against itself cannot stand, but a house can be divided within itself. I have friends, Marcy and I have dear friends that are married couples that are going to vote differently in this presidential cycle. We have dear friends that are couples that are married to one another, live in the same household, and some of them got the COVID vaccine or the jab, and some of them didn't, or one of them did and one of them didn't. But they're not divided. They're not divided against themselves. They are mutually honoring each other, even though their opinions are different. And we're talking, when you're talking about life and politics, and here's another example, a married couple. One of them has a faith and goes to church and the other one doesn't. But they're still married. There's still peace. There's still prosperity. There's still love, and there's still mutual respect, because they're not divided against themselves. They are divided, but with themselves, and they honor and they love each other despite their differences. What if we tried to do that on a daily basis? What if we didn't just focus on the things we disagree with someone about, but we focus on the things that are common to us? Because there's one thing I know for sure. And in fact, I know right now multiple people that have written off family members, spouses have written off their, or parents have written off their kids. Kids have written off their parents and said things like, "You're dead to me. I don't ever want to hear from you again as long as I live." Why? Because they're voting for different candidates in this presidential cycle. Is anything that significant where you break blood bonds because you disagree on something? To them it is. I don't think that there is nothing that my wife could ever do or say or believe or think that would ever cause me to dismiss her or want to live my life without her. In fact, I love it when we have conversations about our differences. My brother and my sister and my mother, my sole surviving parent, my mother, we very rarely do the four of us see eye to eye on things like politics or religion or global health and wellness, or the COVID vaccine as specifically. But guess what? We still love each other. We still respect each other. We don't slander each other. We pray for each other. And we own the fact that we're different, and we love the fact that we're different, because we can have conversations and learn more about why do you feel that way, or they learn more about why I feel or believe a certain way. And that, to me, strengthens our bond. It doesn't divide us. And I do know a lot of people that do not employ that strategy. And I would just invite them to, because here's another thing at funerals. If somebody had a brother, and I know I'm thinking of two people specifically right now who are brothers, who have sworn that they would never talk to each other again. what if one of them passed away suddenly? And now the person who's not talking to their spouse or not talking to their sibling is attending the funeral of their sibling with the ties never being mended. How do you think that's going to sit? That's going to be eternal regret, because nothing, no disagreement, no differences of opinion, no political situation, no global health situation, no religious situation is that important that you dismiss a blood relative forever, because there will be regret if that person passes away suddenly. So I'm inviting you, if this resonates with you, if I'm speaking to you directly and you have a parent or a sibling or someone in your family or a friend or a loved one that thinks differently than you, and because of that, either they wrote you off or you wrote them off, or it was mutual, rectify that bond, restore that friendship, because I wouldn't want you to go attend their funeral and have regret and look at the triviality and the smallness of whatever your disagreement was versus the bigness of the eternal regret and remorse you're going to have because you didn't iron out your crap. So iron out your crap. Say you're sorry if you have to. Accept that even if you don't, even if you weren't the one at fault, take ownership and mend that relationship. Because I'm telling you, my friend, and I don't have anybody like that, but I do go every funeral that I go to. There's always a sense of regret. I wish I would have known that person more. I wish we would have hung out more. I wish we would have broken more bread together and learned more about each other, because I'm listening to stories of this phenomenal woman or this phenomenal man, and it leaves a void in my heart. Don't find yourself in that situation, especially if it's a loved one, where you go, you know what? At the end of the day, this person is no longer here. It's Christmas. It's their birthday. I can't just call them up because they passed, and the whole thing we disagreed about was just BS on a scale or magnitude. So mend those friendships, mend those family bonds, get over your differences and stop being divided. It's okay to have differences of opinion. Honor each other's right to have a difference of opinion and love them through it. Because I guarantee you this, most people are used to being criticized when someone doesn't think like them. Flip the script and say, you know what? I'm glad you don't think like me, because the more we talk to each other, we can learn from each other. I love you despite the fact we think differently. I love you despite the fact we're going to vote differently. I love you despite the fact we have differences of opinions on things. And it's the things that matter most that where we split hairs and we keep score and we make ourselves right over and that other person wrong. Stop that cycle, my friend, because none of it matters if that person is no longer here. So do it while they're living. Do it while you're living, and take the high road. Be the one who apologizes. Even if you don't think it's necessary, who cares? Stop keeping score about keeping score. None of it matters when it's too late. And I'm going to close with this. I will never forget the day my grandmother came to the reality that she was the sole living person in her sphere of influence, and how lonely she was as a result. I will never forget the look on her face. And I don't ever want anyone to be in that situation, because these were people, and I don't know why she was in that situation, where we're talking about childhood friends, deep, deep friends. She was the last one in her friend group. But my grandmother still had family. She still had other, maybe less deep friendships. But when she acknowledged the fact that she was the oldest person in her surviving peer group and how lonely she felt, I don't ever want anybody to experience the look on my grandmother's face and the feelings that she had as she was saying that. So don't put yourself through that, my friend. Don't put your relatives through that. Don't put your family members through that, who you might be punishing because they said something wrong, they did something wrong, they voted differently, they got the jab and you didn't, or you got the jab and they didn't. None of that matters when they're gone. So stop it. Make amends with these people. Rebuild those relationships. Make that phone call. Give that person a hug, and do it today, before you get the, hey, did you hear the news? Those kinds of news sucks. And it's happening more and more in my life. And the reality is it's going to keep getting more and more and more. And then it's going to peak. then it's going to get less and less and less as there's less and less people that are in that sphere group until it stops altogether. And when it does, if you're the last person surviving, make sure you've got a great circle of influence around you and a nucleus of friends and families that you love and that love you, so that you don't feel that eternal extreme loneliness. And if you're already feeling that, make some friends, my friend. Restore some friendships and some family bonds, because nothing, no disagreement is worth the eternal regret of not mending those relationships. So mend them. Have a wonderful day. Take care. God bless, because you're worth it. Your friends and family's relationships and the smiles that are going to come to your face when you give that hug, when you receive that phone call, when you make that phone call, and everything is right in your world again, nothing is going to feel as good as that. So make it happen, and make it happen now. Take care, and God bless.